Hi guys, and welcome back to Eternity Echoes. I'm so glad to have you here. Today I'm going to be telling you an account of a woman who wakes up to see Jesus and he heals her. So let's get into it. In August 2020, I had a dinner party planned, and the day before I was setting tables for 3 generations of guests. COVID had begun just a few months prior in March, and we'd all been in lockdown since. I decided that meatloaf with mashed potatoes and gravy was just the comfort food that we all needed. All of a sudden, a wave of nausea came over me. I began to vomit violently. I knew that meant that I'd been poisoned, with likely food poisoning, because it came on suddenly, and it reminded me of when I got sick from fish oil multiple times years prior. My husband Brad kept watching with big eyes, asking over and over should he cancel the dinner. I kept vomiting, but I managed to tell him no way. It was going to pass inside 8 hours, and I was ready. The food prep was all that was left, and I'd have a full day that next morning to complete everything I needed to do. Then the diarrhea started again. It was violent and came in the bed. I was so sick. I wiped off the sheets, threw a large beach towel over it, and laid down on it for what would be the next 2 weeks. Too sick to roll side to side for my husband to even change the sheets. Easier to lay in it. Yeah, I know that sounds sick. I have a colostomy and wrote a medical book on the subject for patients, so I'm hyper aware about E. coli. So the choice to swim in poop was a real challenge, but I opted for it because I was literally too sick to move. I couldn't care less at that point about hygiene. I finally admitted defeat and told my husband to cancel the dinner. So, yep, he cancelled our party. I proceeded to get fevers and learn what spiked fevers are. They come back to back for hours, days, and weeks. I was fast losing weight and couldn't eat. We wondered where all the diarrhea came from. No food for days and days. It got so bad that Brad had to carry me to the toilet. He's 6'6", but at 70 years old, I was still heavy for him, even when I was at 111 pounds. I lost track of time. Days versus nights, they all blended together. One day I woke up in a desert. I raised my head. Interesting, because I couldn't do that before. I raised my head to see Jesus leaning on a big boulder at a cliff ball. We're in a desert, and I was face down on the ground. There he was, in his white robe, and he was really casual. Because I chat to him daily, I wasn't really surprised that he showed up. I immediately skipped all the greeting formalities and cut to the chase. I asked him, "So, you're gonna burn all this out of me?" Telepathically, he responded in my head, "Yes, ma'am, of course." Later, I would find out a few addictions were gone. For example, cough drops. I sucked on those several a day. No cough, just addicted. Poof, now gone, and I never ate another one. I trust him completely, so I didn't question him. I accepted it readily because he's the driver. I nodded, "Okay, let's roll then." We chatted longer, but he wiped my memory of the rest of the conversation, to be remembered at the appropriate time. Jesus pushed off the boulder he leaned on and walked over to me. I think he merely touched my head with a fingertip, and I awoke back in my bed. I immediately grabbed my phone. I hadn't touched it in weeks, so I still had some charge left. I put the experience into my notes in the iPhone. I walked out of my bedroom into the kitchen and was celebrated as still alive. About a year or so later, I discovered the phone notes. Therein was the key to my experience with Jesus. Brad was of the belief that Jesus had blocked my memory until I needed it. I sort of have to agree now. In those notes, I had asked Jesus about my book that I'd been writing. I literally gave him all of my life to use as he pleases. I'm a sucker for the guy, and he knows it. Daily, I turn my life and my will over to him. He has since dictated my second book in what seems to be some sort of manic high since then. He stayed months until we fleshed out my number 2 book. Some call it channeling, but my family call it insanity. I could see through everything and everyone. People hate being called out, and I relate, but I called them out. It didn't help my relationships much because those narcissists are always right, so I must be crazy. I got a kick out of them being in denial. Perhaps this was an after effect of being high and letting Jesus take the wheel. I had a blast, family not so much. Seriously, once you walk with Jesus, all else pales. The propaganda, the groupthink, the insanity, all of these times are just a contrast to no light. Darkness is fading faster than now, and it's time to share. Well, that's a wrap for now. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, sending you lots and lots of love.